Well, today is Tuesday, and we shift from one prophet, Ezekiel, to another, Isaiah. If you recall, these two prophets are part of what we call the major prophets, or the Big Five: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. And there's a lot of prophecy that we can learn about in Daniel, but we're shifting our context to Isaiah, which we'll be hearing about now for a couple of days, today and the next 2 days. And today is from Isaiah 56, before we shift back even further to Isaiah 55. We're listening to Isaiah 56, verses 1 through 8 in the New Revised Standard Version. And this is about the covenant extended to all who obey. I think we'll find some interesting information as we dive and take a little deeper look at the text. Thus says the Lord, maintain justice and do what is right, for soon my salvation will come, and my deliverance be revealed. Happy is the mortal who does this, the one who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath, not profaning it, and refrains from doing any evil. Do not let the foreigner join to the Lord say, the Lord will surely separate me from his people, and do not let the eunuch say, I am just a dry tree. For thus says the Lord, to the eunuchs who keep my Sabbaths, who choose the things that please me and hold fast my covenant. I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name, better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting covenant that shall not be cut off. And the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, to minister to them, to love the name of the Lord and to be his servants, and all who keep the Sabbath and do not profane it, and hold fast my covenant. These I will bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Thus says the Lord God, who gathers the outcasts of Israel. I will gather others to them besides those already gathered. Now, there's a lot for us to talk about in these few 8 verses, and if we look at verse 5, that's where we really want to focus our energy today. And in the Hebrew, there's a phrase here that's Yad Vashem, which literally means a hand and a name, but it's translated in its context to mean a monument and a name. It means I will give them a hand, I will erect for them a monument, and I'll give them a name. And it's better than any legacy. So what kind of a name is better than any legacy that we can imagine? Well, that's the name of the Lord and a place in God's family, a place in God's house for all eternity. I love the words too in verse 7 that talk about a house of prayer for all peoples, all nations. That's a wonderful reminder that could be at the top of our sanctuary as we come in the doors. My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. And truly here on Cape Cod, we're gathering all peoples from around the world and giving them an opportunity to engage the living God. But I want to say a little bit more about some of the challenges that are inherent in this text. It's addressed to eunuchs, and these are people that served in the house of the Lord and that couldn't physically have any children. Their hope for posterity and offspring was gone. And so they said in this text, I'm dried up. I'm a family tree that has come to its end. I have no hope and no future. And God says to those who are faithful, that I'll give you an inheritance and a legacy that's better than anything that you could imagine in the flesh. Because spiritually, I'm going to raise you and give you newness of life. Well, this phrase, Yad Vashem, is a phrase that's familiar for anyone who lives in Israel. If you've had the opportunity to visit Jerusalem, there's a chance that you've been to the Holocaust Museum there that bears this name, Yad Vashem. And it literally is like a pair of praying hands reached to the heavens, a monument and a name, a hand and a name, for all those people, God's people, who were lost, whose lives were taken in World War II. And they probably, too, had similar thoughts to those eunuchs, that my hope is dried up, I have no future, no help, and no hope. It's to those whose hope is cut off, those who think that they have no future, anyone who faithfully follows the Lord, that God gives these words of hope. I'm going to gather you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to give you something better than you can imagine. Well, we have yet to see in our world what that will look like in the fullness of its reality, but we know in our hearts, as we've come into a relationship with Jesus Christ, that God has done far more with our lives than we could ask or imagine. I think it's amazing to look back and see that the writing is already on the wall here in the Old Testament, that God is promising a hope and a future to those who have none. And this is perhaps a timely word for us today, that when we're feeling hopeless or uncertain about the future, that God is going to give us a monument that's better than anything we could plan or imagine. Thanks be to God for that generosity. I'll be praying for you today.